Hello, my name is Lucas, this is a bit of lit, and I was tagged in the Brandon Sanderson Tag by Crypto and Una from Codex Cantina. If you're watching, especially you, Mr. Nothing, you are tagged my mortal enemy. Anyway, I've never read anything by him. I have watched some of his lectures and listened to his podcast, and I have read his website and some Reddit posts and some tweets, but none of his books. Anyway, number 1, Brandon wrote many early novels while working as a night clerk at a Provo hotel. What book kept you reading late into the night? For me, that would be The Plague by Albert Camus, which I finished right when the protests in America started after right the day of, or I can't remember. The protests had started, I believe, when George Floyd was brutally murdered in Minneapolis. And I would like to just read this quote, because this is the part of The Plague, which is about this city in Algeria that has the Black Plague come back, and they have to lock down. And then, it just talks about society as a whole and how all our institutions interact with us and how we interact with them and with each other and all sorts of different things. And then I read this quote right at that time, and it was a great reminder why we should care about one another. All I maintain is that on this earth there are... let me read that again. All I maintain is that on this earth there are pestilence and there are victims, and it's up to us, so far as possible, not to join forces with the pestilences. I grant we should add a third category, that of the true healers, but it's a fact one doesn't come across many of them. And anyhow, it must be a hard vocation. That's why I decided to take, in every predicament, the victim's side, so as to reduce the damage done. Among them, I can at least try to discover how one attains to the third category. In other words, to peace. So yeah, that took it over the top for me and made me like it a lot more than I was. I was enjoying it, but, right at the time I was getting through it, everything changed. Even more than this year has brought on for everyone. Number 2, Brandon's complex magic systems set his fantasy apart. What subject do you love to read about in all of its complexity? Founding Fathers of America, Revolutionary War, American history in general, but mostly that timeline, that time period. Not because I think America was great at that time or cool. Yeah, let's rebel against these tyrannical British. I just find them interesting because they're so revered and they are so terrible. But you have some really interesting, amazing characters of the time who did a lot of great things. Terrible, yes, but great for... yeah, anyway, the American mythological origin, Revolutionary War time. Really love reading about it, and about the Founding Fathers. Number 3, Brandon gets book ideas from watching other storytellers fail to execute a concept well. He figures out how to do it better. I do a similar thing. I often, when I'm reading a book, I think, I wonder, what if this happened instead? I don't write as much as him, nor do I publish. But anyway, what 2 books handle the same concept in strikingly different ways, and which did you prefer? Well, let's just talk about first the genre of science fiction of First Contact. I read Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis, which just came out very recently, and it deals with whistleblowers revealing that first contact happened a long time ago and the government lied about it, and that there's all these tests and stuff. And then the whole Remembrance of Earth's Past series by Liu Cixin, which upon reflection I still enjoyed. Horribly sexist and misogynist, but yeah, even when I was reading it, I was thinking that there were certain parts that I was like, eeh. This was written by an old Chinese man. Anyway, I guess he was middle-aged at the time, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that deals with aliens coming to attack and destroy Earth, but first contact doesn't really happen in the same way, where the aliens come to Earth. They're far, far away, and we send a signal out to them by sending the signal to the sun, and it bounces off and goes to them, and they decide, let's colonize and brutalize here. So in a way, they also deal with colonialism in their own way, kind of axioms, and not so much about taking over Earth, but both aliens think we might have to get rid of humans. So, not strikingly different ways, but very similar. I read all 4 of those books this month, and they took these ideas in different ways. So, number 4. Brandon was recommended several books about dogs that die. As a result, he became a reluctant reader. Please share a formative good or bad childhood reading experience. My mom locked me in her room to make me read the first Harry Potter book. And it took me an hour or 2 to read the first chapter because I wasn't really a reader at the time. And then the next day I read again, and I had to read for 2 hours, and I blew through most of the book, or a good chunk of it, a couple chapters. I didn't it took me forever to read the 13 pages or whatever, because I really didn't want to read. I just wanted to play video games, I think, or watch TV or something. But then I started thinking about the book the next day, and I was, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. And then, yeah. So that started it all, even though I didn't really read it as very much until after college. I did read a little bit more because of that. So, good. Number 5, Brandon and several friends host the Writing Excuses podcast, and they frequently invite guests. Please tell us about a collaborative fiction project and what you thought of it. Well, I suppose improv is a collaborative fiction project in a way. I've been to many improvisational comedy shows, and I've been part of some. Nerve-wracking, very, very nerve-wracking. So is doing stand-up, which I have also done. Very uncomfortable, very nerve-wracking. But it's really cool to see people when they're really clicking, when they do improvisational comedy, and it's fiction. So maybe that's cheating because it's not literary, but it is art in its own way. Number 6, Brandon's first book, White Sand Prime, was rewritten and eventually converted into a graphic novel called White Sand. What book would you like to see in another format? I've said it before, and I will say it again. Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Performed. It can be a movie. That would probably be what makes the most sense, makes it the easiest. Performed as a schoolyard sort of recess performance where, it's all kids. The acts change in acts or whatever. It could be like when the bell rings and it's time to go back inside, and it's all acted by children, because I just love the idea of it being on the schoolyard playground. um, so yeah, Julius Caesar as a movie, probably, or as a play, performed by schoolyard children. That would be really cool, I think. Number 7, Brandon writes very quickly. What prolific author or authors would you recommend? Robert Munch, I think. He's a children's writer. I've been talking about a lot of his books with a lot of kids. They're very funny books. The artist, I can't remember his name, he makes these crazy drawings. So yeah, probably him. He wrote a whole bunch. Or maybe the person that wrote the Junie B. Jones series. Junie B. Jones is a kindergartner. She's really funny. Also children's books. That's all I've got to say, really. I've been reading a lot of kids' books. So there's that. Number 8, Brandon's Cosmere Universe books are grounded in Platonic philosophy. What book or series gets you really excited about the source material? I don't think I understand this question at all. So I'm just going to say that I don't know. I have no idea. What book or series gets you really excited about the source? What do you mean the source material? Isn't the source material the book? Unless it's a book of history, in which case, yeah, I guess I would be interested in seeing the documents or whatever, going to a museum that might have some of these pieces out for display or as some special collection. There's that, I don't know. So I'll just say history books make me want to go to museums where maybe I can see something related to what they're talking about. Where am I? Number 9. Brandon loves to show multiple sides of every issue and to contrast character values. Please share a book that handles controversy well. I would say, I forgot her name. Nell something. Painter, I think. Oh my gosh. Where is her name? There we go. I lost it again. What? Where did it go? Yeah, The History of White People by Nell Irvin Painter. It's the history of the science of race in white culture from Europe to America. It's hard to read. It is a real, very informative, educational, gives you a lot to chew on, but it is a sort of controversial topic, I suppose. Excellent book. I recommend it. Please read it. Number 10. Brandon Sanderson is a writing teacher, and unlike some writing teachers, he posts his lectures online for free. What free literature resource are you grateful for? Project Gutenberg. That is all I have to say. Thank you. Goodbye.